Hi, you clicked onto today's tropical tidbit for Wednesday. Whole lots to talk about today in the tropics. This is the busiest day of the season so far. Over here we got an old frontal trough in the Gulf of Mexico, and you can see a little bit of rotation trying to develop with an area of low pressure that might try to form over here in the western Gulf. And this is something that Texas needs to watch carefully to see if this tries to spin up and do a little something. I don't see anything too serious coming out of it, but upper level winds will be improving in this area over the next couple of days, and this will be very slowly moving off to the west-northwest into the Texas Gulf Coast, bringing at least rain to them, but it'd be wise to watch this for potential feedback and see if it can moisten things up enough to try to get going. Sneaky these things can be, so keep an eye on that. Over here we've got Danielle, which is once again a hurricane, and we've got Tropical Depression 7, which will be Earl by the end of today, and this will be the first time that we have multiple named storms on the map at the same time this year. Expect that to be a theme that will reoccur several more times before the season is over. So over here looking at Danielle, it had another core replacement last night. The CDO almost died and then reformed again. The convection little bit shallow compared to what we'd want to see it. You can see the showers going out in front of this, which is a good sign, but there's still a lot of dry air getting entrained into the southwest quadrant over here, and this is going to continue to be a problem. Looking at the big loop, you can see that it's still running straight at the Bermuda High pretty much, and what's going to happen is there's a trough up here that's going to be trying to recurve her, and this trough that recurves her will be pushing this ridge over to her north and eventually to her northeast, and once this ridge is out of the way, she comes up alongside of it, and before the trough starts to shear her too much, it'll start ventilating her first, and this is when, in this area in here, in the vicinity of Bermuda's latitude, it could really try to blow up, and she could make a run at major hurricane status still. She may only get up to Cat 2, but Cat 3 is certainly possible if dry air can stop being a problem for her. And this is something that Bermuda will have to watch very closely. You can see the model runs, they're taking it out, but see a lot of the ensemble members over here still seeing her getting trapped underneath the ridge for a little while before finally being able to recurve out. Now I think that the US East Coast is pretty much safe from this, and although they should keep a wary eye, I don't think they're in the game anymore on this. But this is the kind of problem where if this gets up to 30 north and then stalls and gets caught and turns west-northwest before coming out, it could end up running right near or west of Bermuda, which is right there. And this is something they should watch very closely. If they're lucky, it'll follow the model consensus and pass east of them, which would be the best case scenario. But if it comes near or west of them, this could be a bad storm for them, especially since it will be tending to strengthen in this area, not weaken. So it is going to be a formidable storm coming into this area. So Bermuda needs to watch this very closely. So we've got Danielle, we've got future Earl over here, and taking a quick look at Earl, there's some dry air over here, SAL, wrapping into this. It'll get a better convective structure as it comes farther west. I think strengthening with this will again be gradual like Danielle as this comes across. If it gets any closer to Danielle, you can kind of see her outflow coming out over here. If he closes in his distance to Danielle any closer, he may start to get sheared by her, which is why I think a gradual strengthening trend coming west-northwest is warranted. It may be a while before this becomes a hurricane if it is destined to become one. And we will see down the road if he just follows Danielle's weakness on out along with her, or if he gets stuck and stays farther south and becomes more of a problem in this area of the world later on in a week to 10 days. So we will keep an eye on that. And look at this. If we take a look and expand the view into Africa over here, look, we got Danielle, soon to be Earl, and this is likely to try to become Fiona according to the models over here. So we got 1, 2, 3. The train has started. Here's the parade. Look at them all lined up, headed northwest over here, and this is the kind of pattern where we said this kind of stuff was going to happen. This is no longer just on the models, folks. There's 1, 2, 3. I'm no longer pointing at a model. I'm pointing at satellite imagery. There's 3 significant systems coming onto the map right now, and you can see what's starting to go on over here. Now let's look at the GFS ensembles day 15 500 millibar height forecast. You can see the ridging building into the northeastern U.S., southeast Canada, teleconnected to troughing over the eastern Gulf of Alaska and western Canada. And notice how we've got ridging over lower than normal heights in the Caribbean over here, and this is the pattern that we keep talking about, where if you get the ridge to get far enough north over here, over lower than normal heights, you've got a pattern that is conducive for hurricane development, and especially when you have it over here, hurricanes that can come in towards the United States. Now we also notice that there's a lot of blues over here in the eastern Pacific, and we know that lower than normal heights generally implies upward motion and lower than normal pressures. So we don't want a bunch of that over in the eastern Pacific, or they'll steal our show. But think about it this way, though. These are lower than normal heights not because there's rising air and lower pressures, but because the air is already cold. Colder than normal air implies air being packed closer down to the ground because cold air is more dense. So you get lower than normal heights over here, and the reason is because of La Nina. The water is cold in the Pacific, so the air is cold. So actually the lower than normal heights in here are indicating subsidence, sinking air, while the lower than normal heights in here are taking place over warmer than normal water, warmer than normal air, and therefore they can only represent lower than normal pressures and upward motion of air. So really, this isn't a concern to us. These are representing subsidence. These are representing upward motion. So seeing this beneath a ridge over the northeastern U.S. is a pattern that is conducive for a lot of activity. And you know, the Caribbean has been pretty inactive so far. They were host to our first storm, Alex, when he was a tropical storm when he came through here. But really, the Caribbean's been pretty inactive so far. But you know what? I think you guys' time is coming, unfortunately. The models have been very bullish on the precipitation in the Caribbean during the heart of the hurricane season. When you get a pattern, when this finally lifts north, the high has been so far south so far this year that there hasn't been much able to go on over here. But once this lifts north into here, and you get these lower than normal heights showing up in here, we're probably going to see the Caribbean light up as well as we get into September and October. Now looking over here, this is at 2005, the period of September, October, November, mean 500 millibar height anomaly. We notice the ridge south of the Aleutians, trough over Gulf of Alaska and Western Canada, typical of a cold PDO, and the big high east of Hudson Bay over here. And we all know what happened in 2005. We had Rita during this period, we had Wilma during this period, we had a total of 15 named storms during this period. That is a record, and we know all the activity that happened. We got into the Greek alphabet over here with all these Greek names out in the middle of the Atlantic by the end of this period. And look now at what we're forecasted by the UK Met Ensembles to be for September, October, and November of 2010. Notice the ridge east of Hudson Bay, trough Gulf of Alaska, Western Canada, ridge south of the Aleutians. Let's do this again. This is 2005. Alright, look at this, and look at this area of the world on the ensemble forecast. Compare these two. You cannot get better than that. Ridge east of Hudson Bay, ridge east of Hudson Bay. There is no, you can't get a better analog than that. This is 2005, and you can see what happened during 2005, and you can see why I'm concerned. The models are going towards the same pattern that generated one of the most historic years ever recorded in the Atlantic Basin. So this is a reason to be concerned. You see this kind of a similarity over here in the Atlantic, and you got to be worried, and you can already see the shorter term model starting to trend towards this over here, with the ridge building further north and lower than normal heights in the tropics, trough over Gulf of Alaska, ridge south of the Aleutians. You can see this taking place right before our eyes, and the MJO is setting up to come back into our area of the world. And this is something we need to watch very closely, and this is why that I'm still concerned about hyping up the season. The end game could still be quite potent with this. We're nowhere close to done with the season. We're just now lighting up, and take a look at the train coming off of Africa. And this is just African waves. We could still have in close homegrown development. We could have things spawn up in the Caribbean. We've got all sorts of stuff that could happen. So I just hope everyone is still prepared and ready for what may come their way. That is it for today. Thanks for watching.